Thank you. As we are late by 20 minutes, therefore I request all the speakers, please cooperate. The first speaker is Padma Shri Dr. Ashok Pangaria. He is one of the leading clinicians in neurology. He is a professor emeritus neurology at SMS Medical College, Jaipur, and an honorary neurologist at Armed Forces of India. He is the chairman of Disha and president of Neurology Care and Research Society. He was the vice chancellor of Rajasthan University of Health Sciences. He has published around 100 research papers. He has been the only Indian editor in the prestigious Yearbook of Neurology and Neurosurgery, published from Miami, USA. He has been awarded Lifetime Achievement Award by Times of India and UNESCO Award for contribution to the society. I request Dr. Pangaria to speak on the topic Happiness, Spirituality with Science, Philosophy and Religion. Please, Dr. Pangaria.
Good evening, Mr. Chairpersons, ladies and gentlemen. I would, for next half an hour, but the organizers say that I'll have to reduce it 5-7 minutes, would be talking on the science, philosophy, religion relevant to happiness, longevity, and spiritualism. Spiritualism, as you know, is the buzzword these days, and everybody has his own comprehension about the concept. Well, science has come a long way in understanding the whole issue of philosophy, science, religion. And from 19th century, when the scientists were at loggerhead with religious leaders, things fortunately have come, both the philosophy and the science have come closer to each other for the benefit of mankind. My journey in neurology began from the Medical College Jaipur. What actually I was fascinated with is the first time I went through the embryology where a single stem cell converts into a large human being with different organs. This probably what people call as evolution, but to my mind, it was probably a choreographed pattern of development, because nothing less than what we call as God or anybody what we call as a super scientist would have created that. The process was, then I went into neurology and learned the art and science of practicing clinical neurology. It was my father who gave me the first lesson in spiritualism, which actually after 30 years of my study in science, I learned that how true he was. He said that buy mental peace at any cost. The journey continued. In 35 years of my experience, I came across several anecdotal experiences where I found that life is beyond human comprehension. There were several issues, and then the things started moving, as far as I was concerned, moving closer to philosophy, looking at the world, that what is happening despite the technical, scientific, material and economic huge advancement, there is a large number of diseases, what we call as lifestyle-based diseases. And India, apart from infections, is showing the changing pattern of disease. You look at that, with so much of advancement, the happiness index is gradually dwindling. In fact, the most affluent nation in the world, United States of America, is 31st in happiness index, while India is somewhere 131. And which is number one is surprisingly Bhutan, which still has traditional practices. If you look at the health scenario in India and also in the United States, that there are issues. In the United States, you have 40% of the US adult population suffer with insomnia. The country having highest consumption of drugs for pain, depression, and acidity. This is what the development is. India, diversion of lot of money to curative health sector, rich dangerously over investigated, middle class getting pauperized, and poor are indebted. People are getting disillusioned with Western kind of medicine because of side effects, commercialization of medicine, increasing incidence of iatrogenic disease. They are trying to shift to alternative complementary medicine, but they must be known they are only preventive and they are certainly not panacea for all ills. But unfortunately, even this scam means complementary alternative therapies are also going the allopathy way in terms of commercialization. Then, and report side effects are underreported. If you look at the glimpses of 21st century, this is the state we are passing through. Our telephone are cordless, our cooking fireless, our food fetless, our dresses topless. Our youth jobless, our labor effortless, our conduct worthless, our attitude careless. Our feelings heartless, our education valueless, our arguments baseless, our leaders shameless. Creating a gloomy environment. So we have an environment which is negative, stressed lifespan with a result of lifestyle based diseases. But you need to manage your life. And this is what is known as the art of management. Problems many, challenges huge, resources limited, yet attainment of health and happiness vital to human excellence. Can we use our brain, the supercomputer, to remodel for happiness, longevity, and healing without any cost? Because God has bestowed this to everyone equally. If you look at the scientific logic, Einstein, the scientist of the century, he says that science without religion is lame, religion without science is blind. A human being is a part of the whole called by the universe. That is why we say that spiritualism is losing selflessness and entering to universe or moving beyond the human body. So science of meditation is merging of self with universe. Medicine, actually there are two components, the science and the art, and brain and mind remodeling, as you will see, can actually create longevity and spiritualism. Brain is a unique organ. This is only 2% of the body weight, but carries 20 to 25% of the total blood flow, 20% of the oxygen consumption, utilizes almost 50% of the gene pool the body has. So how important it is. Has neurons equal, the nerve cells equal to the stars in the Milky Way, is the greatest generator of electricity. There are two, the left and the right. Right is imaginative, emotional, the left is logical and verbal. That is why we say that human being is composed of science and art, because both the right and the left, they act in cohesion and they integrate the brain function. This is a very interesting slide because each one of you, if you happen to understand this, actually you would understand the meaning of life and how do you remodel. Anyway, you can see that each human brain is composed of 3 independent biocomputers. If you look at it, there are 3 in different colors, green, yellow, and blue. The green one is the oldest brain, so this is the oldest computer. After the evolution, you had the middle one and the latest, the neocortex. So what these functions have, the lowest one has a function which is a physical brain and is responsible for flight. So its basic needs are actually governed through this. This is the green, is the oldest brain, and it is actually the housekeeping brain, the basic requirements. This is the middle part of the brain, which is known as the societal brain, where we actually talk of emotions, love, hate, fear, pleasure, sexual issues, jealousies. So this part of the brain actually then moves higher, what we call as evolution. So when we evolve from down below, we move higher and higher. So this is the latest, or what is we call as a new cortex, which is both for memory, understanding, analysis, compassion, altruism, and this part is also religious. So actually religion sits at the highest level of the brain, and it entirely depends on the individual which way, at what levels of brain they work. Incidentally, all these are interconnected, they can influence. So if you have higher evolution, you can suppress jealousy, you can suppress hate, you can suppress actually the social issues and actually go beyond the housekeeping needs. If you look into the terms of what we say as human being, this is the man. When I am born, there is a strong ego. This is me, and myself. So when you evolve further, you go from me to we, that is a society. And when you go a little higher up, because even this is stratified, and when you go higher up, actually you try to understand that it's not only we, but we for others, what we call as compassion. And when you move a little higher, you go to little higher to the religious areas and go towards God. And a lot of people in spiritualism, they say that reaching to the God is a kind of bliss or spiritualism. So this interestingly controls each other. If you are a societal mind, you will actually suppress the analytical mind. If you have a higher mind, you will suppress the lower centers. And this is the area which in fact actually acts as a valve for change in actions. So here is the time when you can remodel your brain by evolving yourself. Now the issue is that how do you evolve yourself? This of course, just to say that their mind I have used as a software and brain as a hardware. Mind is an electrical, chemical neurocircuitry connecting these three brains. There is no compartmentalization of mind and deals with the content of the self and through the internal thought processes and external environment in relation to either the past experience or future imagination. The mind neurocircuitry, if you see, these are the nerve cells, these are the connecting cells, and these are the hormones. There are about 100 neurotransmitters or chemicals which we'll see. This neurotransmitters or chemicals, actually what creates is the chemistry of the human being. You must have heard people talking, my chemistry matches with the other's chemistry. This is the chemistry which actually is responsible for the human behavior and personality. If you look at it, that each chemical determines the kind of personality the human being is. So if you're able to change this chemistry through some of the things which we are going to discuss out, you can convert yourself. There are issues, there are understanding, and there are scientific evidences to suggest that. If you look at it, dopamine is a rational, achievement-oriented, like Mahatma Gandhi. Acetylcholine is innovative, like Einstein, and incidentally we have the chairman who is doing a lot of work in science. GABA is a cool, so actually you have the poet Rabindranath Tagore. Serotonin is passionate and independent. They have will to reach higher, and this is Tenzing. Interestingly, that these three hormones are affected by exercise. Aerobics increase these three, while anaerobic exercises increases this. So you have within yourself. That is why we always say that some degree of exercise is always important to keep the chemistry moving on. Astonishing fact is the mind can create more connections and synapses across the neuronal pathway. Greater the activation means these are the foodstuffs, this is the exercise which actually produce these amino acids are available in food which convert themselves into chemicals. You can eat these specifically looking into yourself. You can do a SWOT analysis of yourself and take a call on your diet. That would change your behavior, personality to a certain extent, and of course, the other factors which you learn. Greater the activation of synapses, actually greater is the growth of the brain. If you look at it, that proper use of potential of brain and mind can produce wonders as exemplified by the lives of Kalidas, Valmiki, and Ashoka the Great. All these people changed through the change in mind, and their change in mind was always because of an impact of evolution, and they ultimately changed their chemistry. Brain, incidentally, earlier used to be said that it's a fixed structure, it's a rigid structure. Now it is well known that this can be remodeled. This remodeling is known as neuroplasticity. If you look at it, the cells, actually these are the cells, and they branch out in happy people, while in depressed people, there is debranching. And if you look at it, it starts with reversible debranching. If there is a further stress, then actually the cell gets killed. And that is the cause that you try to find, or you go into depression, or you go into diseases like dementia. Then there are two important responses in brain. One is the stress response, the other is a relaxation response. The stress response, if it is persistent, which is related to your social experiences, your own personality, if you still try to be behaving at the societal level, you get into those jealousies, frustration, and unusual competition, not for growth, but for destruction. You actually tend to develop stress reflex, which actually gradually damages body and produces what is known as a lifestyle-based disease. On the other hand, relaxation response is antidote to stress, and you have meditation, laughing, gossiping, deflation, passion. All these things, they induce relaxation response. And what meditation does is it stimulates relaxation response. And if somebody has mastered relaxation response, and some of these Jain saints or Bodh monks have done it, they actually reach to meditation and the meditation, spirituality and bliss in far, far higher levels than the common man. But the best thing that if you are evolved at a higher level, if you are positive in mind, you would always love to be nearer the spirituality. Interestingly, if you look at it, when men watched a flurry of men watched a funny video, levels of cortisol decreased by 39. This is a stress hormone. This is another stress hormone. While those positive hormones increased by 20%, and those which made you painless and happier, they significantly increased. So meditation, actually, these are the different kind of, here it's an introspection of self, then integrate self, try to forget self, and come closer to the universe. Then enlightenment is a state of samadhi. Spiritual state and neurotheology, the study of neurology in response to spiritualism is neurotheology, which has come down. And why we think that spirituality is important? Just look at these words and how differently we react. The same food actually becomes prasad when spirituality enters. Similarly, all these issues. Then effect of meditation. Actually, this is a scientific study where the effect of meditation shows these are the areas which show very bright signals, and they are thickened, which are the areas of understanding, analysis, happiness, religiosity. So this is an established scientific fact that meditation, yoga, or any kind of prayer would bring these impact. Now this is important because when we talk of life, there was a question, something like Atma and protein and all that. So this is actually the telomere. This is an end of a chromosome which is there in every cell. And the size and the length or the thickness of this chromosome is actually directly proportional to the health, happiness, and longevity. The shorter, actually these telomeres, actually these patients develop all these kinds of diseases. Longer and thick, they actually protect diseases and reach to happiness. Meditation, persistent positive emotions, act of passion, they all produce the increase in thickness. So if you look at it, they are the thick ones, which are of people who are quite happy and less diseased or not diseased. On the other hand, diseased telomeres are this. Is there a divine experience in neurobiology? It's a billion-dollar question whether the religion is contemplated or hardwired in brain. There are two interesting developments as far as the brain is concerned, that there is a spirituality gene. People who are prone to spiritualism, who learn spiritualism more often, actually they will have this additional gene, and there is an area in the brain which is known as God module, which gets lit up during the religious contemplation. So these two things are gradually bringing things closer to philosophy and science. Now, using the neurological mind, science of mind for health, happiness, and longevity, brain lives in a dynamic state. Humans have the capacity to influence the electrochemical dynamics. The brain, by voluntarily changing the mental